What if stories and legends can offer us the key to unravelling the hottest political issues of the day? What would it mean if all the answers to today's burning questions were presented in easy-to-digest narratives and myths? Join us as we examine some of the most fascinating tales, some mythological, some historical, and apply their lessons to understanding the chaos of modern politics. I'm your host, Mark Angelides. Welcome to The Rabbit Hole, Politics and Prose, a LibertyNation.com production. An essential element of a functioning, forward-looking and free country is that of a robust fourth estate. The purpose and importance of this cannot be overstated. It is through dedicated journalists and impartial editors that the people can hold to account their elected representatives. But what if it all goes wrong? What happens when the thin veneer of a trusted press forsakes its supposedly noble roots and becomes that most dangerous of creatures, a change agent? These change agents, these biased masters of mayhem, are no longer satisfied with the facade of reporting honestly and plainly the events that shape the world. Now they want to drive them. They seek to rebuild the world in a manner that reflects their own beliefs, without going to the trouble of asking the population, who are increasingly isolated in their sources of genuine news. But to rebuild, first you must destroy. As we often say on The Rabbit Hole, there's nothing new under the sun, and all this has happened before. I'm reminded of former President Thomas Jefferson on his words regarding the corruption in the press. Even in his day, newspapers were partisan machines that would spin a truth to a falsehood in the hopes of swaying public opinion. Jefferson wrote that, quote, "The man who never looks into a newspaper is better informed than he who reads them, inasmuch as he who knows nothing is nearer to the truth than he whose mind is filled with falsehoods and errors." End quote. Yet the use of newspapers or publications as a tool of tyranny or control goes back much further than even the founding of the United States. In fact, we can trace the very first periodical back to 131 BC, more than 2,000 years ago, to see that very little has changed. The Acta Diurna, or Daily Acts, was presented daily to the people of ancient Rome. It's where we get the word journal from the French spelling of day, jour. It would include some basic facts such as society happenings, political events, news of wars. But we must remember, there was always a controlling hand behind the information inscribed. It was also used as a social control mechanism. When the price of grains looked set to rise, which would cause, naturally, some civil unrest, a simple statement in the journal could allay fears and resettle the market. Or if political machinations were taking place that impacted the outer parts of the Roman Empire, they could be transmitted through copies made of the Acta Diurna. If you need to know more, let me just tell you what the journal's motto was: publicize and propagate. It seems that this low-level duplicity was a very open secret. Throughout history, those with the control over the communication mediums have had the power to sway and persuade. Nothing has really changed. Let's look briefly to Europe and to a young half-paid captain seeking to make a name for himself, Napoleon Bonaparte. At the time, the tales of his daring deeds and military prowess were still hidden under the bushel of greater names. In order to make himself known to the public, he took to writing essays of imaginary conversations and debates, in which his easily recognizable participant was always the victor. These letters were published and gave Napoleon not just instant recognition amongst the French soldiers, but allowed him to publish more and more, cementing his position as a man of respect and one to be reckoned with by all those who sought power. Tempora mutanta, nos et mutama in illis, as they used to say in Latin, or today most recognized as times change and we change with them. And although this adage is certainly true of the people, the operations of the press seem to be exactly the same regardless of the preferred medium. With the advent of internet-based news media, the legacy press was confronted with something they had not before encountered. The web is a literary Wild West, where rules are no sooner made than broken, and every gunslinger is out to make a name as grand as that of Billy the Kid. It's a virtual world where the inherited superpowers of a legacy media no longer matter. With this waning influence, there grows a desire, a motivation to seek out and destroy all that would challenge its supremacy. It's not merely the readership that's being lost to this new frontier, but the ability to shape the real world without opposition. Media outlets must now compete for that most precious of commodities, attention. Like Tolkien's Gollum, the Ring of Power, now lost, has left them a trembling creature, willing to engage in chaos to reclaim the mantle. And therefore, we see major media producers spending countless hours chasing rabbits down darker and more avant-garde holes. The major media is out to destroy the upstarts who have dared to stake a claim in their formerly exclusive territory. It's not mere bitterness of glories and applause once lost that drives them, though. It is, for these fading cavaliers, a matter of pride and virility. The future they thought to shape is being torn down lie by lie, exposing the rotten edifice upon which it was built. They have been emasculated and seek revenge using the only weapon they can wield: propaganda. Through the pages of the newspapers and in the vacuous hours of screen time they control, they intend to silence all opposition. They'll use lies, half-truths, twisted tales and innuendo to dismantle any narrative that threatens the sandy castles they have concocted in the pursuit of relevance. Whether it is a news website, a Twitter feed, a YouTuber, or even a public that refuses to swallow the increasingly bitter Kool-Aid, no target is too small. But it would be a task of Herculean proportions to besmirch the reputations and influence of all the opposing voices. So they will not try to do that. Instead, they rely upon making public examples of those who defy the narrative, in the hopes that others who may commit, in their view, the heretical acts, shall be discouraged through fear. One only needs to see the public examples made of these closet revolutionaries whose lives are torn asunder by the mendacious media class. This is venom disguised as prose, designed to strike terror into free hearts. When President Lyndon B. Johnson first said that, quote, "the ultimate victory will depend on the hearts and minds of the people who actually live out there," end quote, referring to the Vietnamese, he could not have suspected that this clarion call would become the beating mantra of the elitist few. Yet it is not purely our hearts and minds that these agents of change wish to capture. It is our obedience, with the proper obeisance to the values they propose, our subservience to the narrative they sculpt, and ultimately, our freedom to express an ideal of liberty that has long since been distorted by their twisted talons. Thank you for listening to The Rabbit Hole, Politics and Prose, a LibertyNation.com production. Join us next episode, where we'll be talking more history, politics, legends and stories. Until next time, thanks for listening.